Whoa, 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 whoa.
They want to make me the bad guy.
I'm talking to you, and you are not free to leave. Okay, so you can't walk away from me when I'm trying to investigate if a crime occurred.
My house,
no,
please?
we are here right now. So you chose to walk over here. Mm-hmm. I am now addressing you out here. Okay.
Okay, fine.
So the big issue we have here is number one. Why would you go into somebody's home and confront them like that? And number
because
two,
I wasn't thinking straight.
And number two, do you think it is all right to grab somebody in their own home on her deck like that?
As I said, I wasn't thinking.
She thought she was doing the right thing. She thought the rules were on her side. She thought that being upset, being bothered, gave her the right to walk onto someone else's property, grab them by the arm, and demand they listen. Today, we're breaking down every second of this incident, the behavior, the response, the restraints, the chaos, and what the law actually says about all of it. Kindly like this video and subscribe. She was wrong. And the officers responding to her call that Sunday afternoon,
Can you tell me what happened right
they
now?
made sure she understood exactly how wrong
Last
she was.
Sunday, between 4:30 and 5:30, they were making this obnoxious noise. As you can see, my deck is straight earshot.
Where do you live?
I live right there.
What number? What house number?
56.
So 56, and they live over here, so a couple hundred feet away?
I guess. I don't know.
Sure, okay. So what happened on Sunday?
I came over and told them that there were some rules in the association about making that noise. They said, you're new here, you don't know what you're talking about, we've been here 30 years. Basically, they could do whatever they wanted. They continued.
Okay.
Even with my windows closed, I could hear that obnoxious machine.
Sure,
Okay?
and this is all on Sunday.
Sunday night.
Okay.
Right, dinner time, can't be out on the deck.
Okay.
Continued all day Monday, even as late as 7 o'clock. Part of the day Tuesday. On Tuesday, we had a board meeting. I spoke to the president of our board, told him about this.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, what could I do on a Sunday evening like that? He said, call the police. Well, that was not something I wanted to do, okay? So when they started up again, Sunday at 5, now does that sound like they were intentionally trying to aggravate me? I think so. I came over to talk to her. She wouldn't turn off the machine.
Let's slow down. So what do you mean when you came over, you talked to her?
She was on her deck,
Okay.
making noise.
Where did you go?
On this side of the deck fence.
Okay.
I said, can you turn that off? Can
Well,
I
hold
talk
on.
to you?
Did you go inside her house?
No, not at that point. I was
Okay.
trying to talk to her.
So you were talking essentially outside where we were originally.
Correct.
Okay. And then what happened after
She
that?
wouldn't turn off the machine.
Okay.
She completely ignored me, pretended I wasn't there.
Okay.
I went onto the deck. I tried to grab the machine.
What do you
I
mean you
don't-
went onto the deck? How did you get into the deck?
There's an opening right in front of those.
So there's a door to the unit?
No. There's. How you ask your companion how he got on the deck. There's a gate in front of the door to the house. Okay? There's a gate onto the deck. I went onto the deck. I tried to grab the machine to get her to stop and listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
She started yelling, "Don't touch me, don't touch me."
Mm-hmm.
Their dog was barking at the door. The inside door was open. I knock, knock, knock. There was somebody sitting in there. She saw me. I knock, knock, knock again. She ignored me. I opened the door. I don't remember if I walked in. I said, "Can I talk to you?" Something like that. And then she started screaming at me. So I came out and I called you folks. And I went over there to tell them, I'm so upset. I went over there to tell them that the president of the association told me I should call the police, and I did not want to do that. Okay? That's why I went over there. But here we are anyway.
When you're grabbing the leaf blower, did you just grab the leaf blower or did you grab her
I had no
arm?
idea. I was so
Okay.
annoyed and aggravated.
So you were grabbing something.
I was trying to get her
Do you
to
remember
stop
if
and
you
listen.
grabbed anything though? Like, did you physically hang on to
I
something?
touched something. I didn't.
So you did grasp at something, is what you're saying. You
I
grabbed something.
tried to. I don't think I actually grabbed anything.
Okay.
No.
Do you
I
remember
don't know.
grabbing her arm at
I
all
do
to
not.
prevent her from trying to blow the leaf blower?
She was pointing it at me, so I may have done that. She was starting to point it at
Okay.
me.
Well, there is a mark on her arm
Okay, then I guess I grabbed
So you
her
grabbed her
arm
arm. Okay.
with my broken finger.
The big issue we have here is, number one, why would you go into somebody's home and confront them like that? And number
Because
two,
I wasn't thinking straight.
and number
okay?
two, do you think it is all right to grab somebody in their own home on her deck like that?
As I said, I wasn't thinking straight.
I'm just asking. Do you think that's okay?
I think if somebody's ignoring me,
Hold. No. Do you think it's
I
okay?
did not go over there with
Okay.
the intention of grabbing her.
But you came over there to confront her about the leaf blowing. You didn't.
I went over to tell them I didn't want to call the police.
Okay. And then what happened? But you said after
wouldn't
she
even
ignored you.
stop and listen to me.
But then you went onto her deck, onto her private
Yes,
property.
I did.
So does that make that okay? Where are we going?
No, I
Where are we
need a
going?
drink of water.
We aren't going anywhere. I am stopping to talk to you, and I said you cannot leave because we are past the point here right now.
I confess. I went up on her deck. I tried to grab something to get her to stop making noise and listen to me. If I grabbed her arm, I grabbed her arm.
You can't do that.
Okay, I can't do it.
You absolutely cannot do that.
Fine. I agree. I can't do it.
Absolutely. Do you have your driver's license on you?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm going to need your basic information. Okay? 95? Let me get her info first, okay? So I did have a
Can I get a drink
conversation.
of water?
Not right now. How do you spell your last name? After talking to her, she did admit to going onto her property and attempting to stop her. She did say that she grabbed onto something, and she did acknowledge that she obviously entered her property without that consent. So you do understand that you can't do that regardless, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you committed a battery, okay?
And criminal trespass.
And criminal trespass. You cannot grab somebody,
Okay, fine.
and you can't
I got
touch
it.
anybody.
I got it.
You do got that, okay.
Put your hands behind your
Turn your hands behind your back. You are under arrest, okay?
For heaven's sakes.
We are past this point, ma'am, okay?
Well, they must be loving this.
Okay.
Will,
Let's walk over here.
Just a moment. My husband
Where
has,
is he home?
Or we have
Okay, is he home?
he is home.
You won't be gone very long regardless, because you're going to have to come back. You're not being held in jail, okay? You're going to get your charges, your documentation, and then you're going to go to your court date.
I can walk better if you're both not going.
Today, we're breaking down one of the most remarkable cell phone moments ever captured on body cam footage. The day an HOA Karen called the police on her neighbor and ended up in handcuffs herself. Before we get into the footage, let's establish the full picture, because context is everything in these cases. This incident took place on September 27th, in a quiet suburban residential community governed by a homeowners association, or HOA. For those unfamiliar, HOAs are private organizations that manage shared community standards, everything from lawn care to noise levels. Residents agree to HOA rules when they purchase property. And yes, those rules often include noise regulations. Now here's where our story begins. The neighbor at house number 56, let's call her Karen because, well, the footage speaks for itself, had been bothered by noise coming from her neighbor's home. Specifically, a leaf blower. According to Karen's own account, this noise had been going on for multiple days, Sunday evening, Monday, parts of Tuesday. She was frustrated. She raised it at a board meeting. The HOA president's advice? Call the police. Simple enough, right? But Karen didn't do that. At least not initially. Instead, she decided to handle it herself. She walked over to her neighbor's home. She entered their private deck through an unlocked gate. She attempted to grab the leaf blower from her neighbor's hands. When the neighbor pulled away, Karen grabbed her by the arm, hard enough to leave visible marks. And then the police were called. Here's the critical detail. Karen apparently believed she called the police herself, but the footage suggests the neighbor may have made that call, given what follows. What we do know is this. When officers arrived, they found both women at the scene, one of them shaken and showing marks on her arm. The responding officers had a job to do. And they did it by the book. Let's go to the footage. As the body cam activates, we can see officers immediately trying to separate and speak with Karen, who appears agitated and is physically moving around the scene. Right away, we see a pattern that body cam watchers will recognize immediately. Karen is not cooperating. She's moving, deflecting, trying to control the narrative. And notice what the officer does. He doesn't escalate. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply, firmly, makes one thing clear. That's a critical line. You are not free to leave. This is the officer invoking what's known as a Terry stop, also called a detention, which legally allows police to temporarily hold a person while investigating a potential crime, even without enough evidence for a full arrest. Karen is not under arrest at this point. But she is legally required to stay and speak with officers. And when she asks where they're going, clip. Where are we going? The officer's answer is sharp and direct. This is textbook de-escalation paired with professional authority. He's not angry. He's not flustered. He's simply in control of the scene. Karen, meanwhile, tries to reframe the entire situation, not as what she did, but as what was done to her. Provocation. That's her opening move. And it's one officers hear constantly. They made me do it. They started it. They were bothering me first. The problem? Under the law, provocation does not justify trespass. And it absolutely does not justify battery. The officer knows this. He doesn't dismiss her frustration, he lets her talk. Because every word she says is either building or destroying her case. And Karen? She's about to destroy hers. Now we get into Karen's account of events, and this is where things start to unravel for her in real time. She explains the noise situation. Leaf blower. Multiple days. Association rules. Board meeting. All of it. Now pay attention here, because the officer does something masterful. He doesn't challenge her. He doesn't argue. He just keeps asking one simple question. And then what happened? He's walking her through her own timeline. He's letting her build the story herself. Because he knows where it leads. So far, this is a neighbor dispute. Annoying, yes? Criminal? Not yet. But then, the story shifts. And the officer stops her immediately. And this, right here, is the moment the interview changes. The officer has just identified the first potential crime, trespass. Karen explains there was a gate, an opening, and she simply walked through it. In her mind, an unlocked gate was an invitation. Under the law, it absolutely is not. Let's be very clear about what criminal trespass means in most U.S. jurisdictions. Entering someone's private property, including a deck, a yard, a porch, without permission is trespass, regardless of whether a gate was locked or not. The legal standard is consent, not access. Karen had no consent. She had a grudge and a plan. And now we arrive at crime number 2. Not only did Karen enter private property without permission, she grabbed something on that property. And in the process, she grabbed the person holding it. Karen's answer? Chilling in its casual delivery. Now we get to the heart of this footage, and frankly, the most instructive part of the entire interaction. The officer has been patient. He's gathered Karen's account. He has the neighbor's account. He has physical evidence, a mark on her arm. And now it's time to deliver the verdict. Not a court's verdict, but a reality check. 2 questions. Simple. Devastating. And Karen, to her credit, doesn't try to deny it this time. But the officer isn't done. He's not looking for an explanation. He's looking for accountability. And here Karen reveals the core of her worldview. She couldn't say yes, because some part of her knew. But she couldn't fully say no either, because in her mind, being ignored still felt like justification. This is what we call the entitlement loop, a psychological pattern where the person's emotional experience of injustice overrides any rational assessment of their own actions. Karen felt wronged. And because she felt wrong, she believed she had the moral authority to act. She didn't. The officer then walks her through her own confession, piece by piece. There it is. On camera. Her own words. She trespassed. She committed battery. She admitted both. And the officer confirms what comes next. What follows is one of the more composed arrests you'll see on bodycam footage. There's no struggle. No shouting. No resistance beyond a moment of stunned confusion from Karen. And then, almost unbelievably, Karen says this. Even in handcuffs, Karen's instinct is to frame herself as the victim of her neighbor's satisfaction. Not to reflect on what she did. Not to take responsibility. But to imagine her neighbors gloating. This is a hallmark of the entitlement mindset, the inability to separate consequence from persecution. The officer doesn't take the bait. He simply continues guiding her toward the patrol vehicle and offers her a calm reassurance. Professional. Measured. Respectful even to someone who just confessed to battery and trespass. That's what good policing looks like. And then the officer delivers one final statement, a moment that sums up the entire encounter. You aren't the police. 4 words. Everything. Let's break down the 2 charges Karen walked away with. Or rather, was driven away with. Charge 1, criminal trespass. In most U.S. states, criminal trespass occurs when a person knowingly enters or remains on property without authorization. Karen opened a private gate onto her neighbor's deck without being invited. She then opened the interior door to the home. Both actions constitute trespass. The key legal word here is knowingly. Karen wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She walked over there deliberately, entered deliberately, and acted deliberately. Depending on the state, criminal trespass can range from a misdemeanor to a felony, especially when it involves entering a dwelling. Charge 2, aggravated battery. Battery, in its simplest legal definition, is intentional, unwanted physical contact. You don't have to punch someone. You don't have to injure them severely. Grabbing someone's arm without consent? That's battery. The aggravated component typically involves factors like causing visible injury, committing the act during a trespass, or targeting a victim in their own home. All 3 arguably apply here. Karen left a visible mark on her neighbor's arm. She committed the act while already trespassing. And she did it inside the neighbor's private property. That's not a neighbor dispute anymore. That's a crime. Here's the lesson for every viewer watching this footage. The HOA rules may have been on Karen's side. The noise may have been genuinely disruptive. The neighbors may have been dismissive and rude. None of that matters. Because the moment Karen stepped through that gate, uninvited, she became the aggressor. She became the one breaking the law. And no amount of leaf blower noise justifies that. Why does footage like this matter? Because this isn't just about one woman and one leaf blower on one Sunday afternoon. This is about a pattern we see time and again in HOA communities, in neighborhood disputes, in situations where one person decides that their discomfort gives them authority over another person's life and property. Karen genuinely believed she was the wrong party. She had been to the board meeting. She had followed the almost right process. And when it didn't immediately resolve her problem, she took matters into her own hands. That impulse, the impulse to act when institutions feel too slow, is deeply human. But it's also deeply dangerous. Because the law doesn't grade on feelings. It grades on actions. Karen's actions that afternoon were trespass. They were battery. And they were caught on body cam from multiple angles. The officers in this footage did their jobs exceptionally well. They were patient, thorough, and fair. They listened to Karen's side. They gathered evidence. They asked the right questions. And when the evidence pointed clearly to a crime, they made the arrest, regardless of who called in the complaint. That's how this is supposed to work. And for the neighbors, who came home that Sunday just trying to blow some leaves, they didn't have to say much. The evidence spoke for itself. In the end, Karen was charged with aggravated battery and criminal trespass, 2 charges that stemmed entirely from a decision she made in a moment of frustration. The lesson? When noise bothers you, call 911. When your neighbor ignores you, call 911. When you feel like nobody's listening, call 911. Because the moment you put your hands on someone, the moment you step onto property that isn't yours, you stop being the victim. And you start being the story. If you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button and subscribe. We cover bodycam footage like this every week, breaking down the law, the tactics, and the truth behind what you're watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the charge was fair? Was Karen's frustration understandable even if her actions weren't? We'll see you in the next one.